Welcome to another episode of Coder Conversations. This is Kevin.
This is TC.
What's up, man? I see you got your camera going, the
Yeah.
Sony ZV-1.
Yeah, just trying to fire it up. It's been a minute. I'm trying to use it a little bit more.
Man, this camera looks way better than the little laptop camera. Like I was in an interview maybe a couple of weeks back, man, and my camera just cut off, and the laptop camera came on, and man, the quality was astounding.
They were like, "What happened?"
Yeah, man. What's been new with you?
Nothing much, honestly. Like, it's mostly just been tackling some new problems at work. That's been a lot of fun. Getting into like international pricing for stores, which is really interesting. Like, I've never used like international format for numbers and stuff. It's different. It's different. Besides that, I've just been taking it easy. Trying to manage my time a little bit more. My sister started a new job, and so like,
where's she working at now?
She's
like, what kind of company?
It's a pizza place. It's still customer service, but she's making more over there than she was before at her old job.
Yeah.
And like she does the night shift, so when I get off work, I gotta like eat something and then just like crash, because if I don't, I gotta wake up at 12.
Yeah.
And go get her. It's just a whole mess. So yeah.
And, she got like a management position, or what exactly?
No, it's still it's pretty. It's non-managerial. I don't know the word, but it's not a manager position. It's more, I guess, more of a cashier. Just employee.
Kind of like the front, like when you walk into the pizza place, like, hey, can I take your order?
Yeah. It's more like the front desk type of deal. And like when, but she's enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. It's cool so far. We'll see how it goes in the next couple weeks.
Man, as long as she's doing, working and doing something productive, man, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, it kind of sucks that the price of cars have gone through the roof, man. Maybe I could have, got a little or something.
I think everything's going up, right? Like cars gone up, houses have gone up, gas.
Man, the prices in Austin is looking like LA, man. I was looking, on Zillow. You can kind of look at the history of the price. Like some houses that was selling for like 300, 400K in 2020. Now they're 800K.
Dang.
So I'm like, man, I think this bubble has to pop, man. Like, how are there so many people with $1 million to buy these houses? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Unless they're gonna get job.
I mean, that many people ain't making deep six figures, like 200K.
Right.
Man, you know what I thought? I was looking into these mobile homes, man. They look pretty nice. It was like only 100K. Like, man, I might just have to give me one of those and stay in there till the market gets more reasonable.
Yeah.
Like when they say mobile home, you kind of think of like Hicks, like some kind of trashy looking thing, but they got some nice ones, man.
Well, I don't know. I can't downsize. Let me say, I don't want to say I can't, because I'm pretty sure if it came to it, I would, but
yeah,
it would be hard. I can't see myself living in a mobile home.
Well, these are like, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths type of thing. It's not like, the tiny little. So, I look at the price like $600 a month. I'm like, okay, I'm paying more for my car. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not something I would want to do, but it's like if housing prices don't get reasonable. Like I've recently seen a story, man. This guy, he saved like $1 million. He's a truck driver, and
Mm-hmm.
he just ended up like living in his truck instead of like renting it. Something. He ended up saving $1 million over like 10 years. Like I couldn't do that, but it just kind of makes you think. Like you got to kind of think outside of the box if you want to even be able to do something like afford a home these days.
Yeah, yeah. That's tough though, man. Like
Yeah,
that's a you got to have that mindset if you really want to
yeah,
like save. Like it can't just be like, oh, I want to save money and then like put like $10 here, $20 there. Like it has to be like a goal. Like your goal has to be to just save. And
exactly.
like I've done it, like, and it's definitely come in handy, like that to
Yeah,
have that savings. But it's tough. Like you have to sacrifice a lot of those like immediate pleasures. Like
yeah.
yeah,
I
it,
mean,
it's not like it's
yeah,
not like you just say you're gonna save and then do it. Go ahead.
because like there was a time when people lived through the Great Depression. It's like when the economy gets rough, you just have to do something different. You can't just expect things to be like how they always were.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, you have to cut back. You have to think outside of the box. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of thinking like, if it comes down to it, if I had to, yeah, I would get one and just live in that and stack up my money. Maybe in 5 to 7 years, have $1 million and just buy a house in cash. You know what I mean?
I mean,
As opposed to making some landlord rich. Like, oh yeah, you're paying 3K to a landlord and you don't see any return from it. Like,
yeah, but like then you're living in a mobile home for 3 to 5 years.
and then,
Like
then you could buy a home outright and not have to work. You know what I mean?
that's. I mean,
But when people say a mobile home, you kind of think like, like some rinky dink, tore up looking thing. They got ones that's just like they look better than a lot of dumps they're selling for like 400K. So I'm like, I was on Zillow. I'm like, man, this house looks like trash, and they're trying to sell this for like $500,000. Like, I'll feel like I got ripped off if I buy that. So it's kind of like playing a waiting game, man. Like okay, the bubble pop now. I'm gonna jump on it.
yeah, yeah,
Man, so you say you've been kind of like getting away from the computer, huh? Or like,
yeah. I've just been like
yeah,
trying to get back into the gym,
yeah,
uh, journaling a lot, just like it because like yeah, there's definitely days where I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, I want to code, but then there's other times where I'm just like, you know
yeah,
what, I don't want to do nothing related to a computer. Like
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
spend, I spend time with family or the weekend mostly. It was cool. It was cool to just chop it up and hang out and just have a good time and
yeah,
not have that itch to be on my phone or even notice that I'm not on my phone. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like to
yeah,
me, it's always good to just like disconnect. Um,
yeah,
and, you know, um,
yeah. But yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Like life isn't just about the money. You know what I mean? Like, we worked hard to get in this so-called hot career, making good
right.
money. But it's like you don't really feel it. You don't feel like, oh man, I'm balling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
Like where did that money go?
I don't wake up feeling like I'm balling. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So
Um,
you gotta enjoy the joys that you have right in front of you, man. Like the past weekend, man, I was just chilling with a fiance and
mhm.
a stepson. Just
Yeah.
can't beat that, man. Like you know, I
Yeah.
think it's kind of good that you got away from the computer, man. Where society's trying to draw you more into like the computer with the metaverse and all these
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah. That's one thing I was listening to a guy talk the other day. and he was talking about how like when the power went out in his hometown, and that was the first time that people like actually went out, and like people were out of their homes, like talking to people, like, hey, do you need help? Hey, you know, how's it going? This what, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And then once the power came back, it's almost as if like everything just went back to status quo. Like people don't talk to each other as much as they used to these days. And and even with like working from home, like even though I'm like slacking people from time to time, for the most part I'm still just here. And like the only time I would get out, and this is mostly my fault, right? I can't blame it on anybody else. It's just like go to the store or whatever. But it's like it's almost like you have to make going out a priority.
Yeah,
it's easy to just chill at home these days, especially when like fast food is delivered to you, right, through DoorDash, or like your groceries are delivered to you through Amazon, or anything. Like technology has gotten so ingrained or so like deep that everything's just easy almost.
Yeah. Everybody's kind of stuck in their little mini cave, like, you know, they like you say, got everything they want that's brought to them, and they don't have to interact with people. Like, I watched this video on YouTube where it's like an African tribe. Everybody was like sitting together. They was you know, sharing food, all of that. It's like there was an actual sense of community there, man. And, you know, like honestly, man, do you really know any of your neighbors?
I don't.
Me neither. I've been here for like 2 years.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate just because like my dad, he lives in a predominantly like upper, I guess you could say, upper area with his girlfriend. But he's maybe one of 2 or 3 African American people on his block. And he I never understood it growing up, but like he always makes a point to say hi. Hi, how are you doing? Like everybody that he sees, like if there was like a line of like 25 people, he would greet all 25 of those people. And I didn't get it at first, but over the years I've noticed that he'll like, oh, hey Jack, hey, how's it going? How's the baby? How's so and so? You know, like he makes connections with people. And so like it when I would try something similar with like over here, but it's almost night and day. It's like it's like if I was older in my 50s or 60s, I could probably get away with it. I think as a younger adult, like it just I just think people these days just don't talk to people.
I think, you know, like we have a weird, you know, our age group, we have a weird suspicion of each other. Like, you know, guy just walks up, hey buddy, like who is this guy? Like,
who does this guy? What does he want?
Exactly.
Just like, come on,
man. I'm trying to get up more, man. You know, like you know, the Dallas Cowboy practice facility is called the Star. Like you can actually kind of like rent like office space or whatever there. Like, you know, like, you know, those places where people who work remotely, they go there and like work together. I forgot what it's called. What is it called?
Like co-working spaces, like we work and
stuff. Yeah. I'm kind of thinking about doing that, man. Just to you know, be around people, man. Like I want a sense of community, man. It's, you know, just being isolated all day, and you know, our profession kind of encourages it. Like, you know, go into your little cubby hole.
I don't think it encourages it. I think it doesn't discourage it. I think that's really what it is. I think it doesn't. It doesn't say, "Hey, you should be more social," or "Hey, you should do this," or "You should do that." It just as long as you get your work done. Okay, you want to put on your headphones and listen to music? Okay, as long as you get your work done. You want to work at a library or whatever? Okay, as long as the end goal is just to create a branch, commit it, create the PR,
Yeah.
pull it, merge it into master branch. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the goal at the end of the day. And however, as long as you get it done before
Yeah.
the sprint is over, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, man, like it's interesting. It's interesting when you look at it from that angle.
Yeah. I think that's that might be the new wave though. Like, instead of having these formal office spaces, formal workspaces,
Mm-hmm.
people can kind of like work remotely, but they can go to like these little co-op spaces. Say like we lived in the same city, you worked at a different company than me, but we're at the same co-op space. Like, yo, let's meet up at this co-op space. You know what I mean? Like people can still get their work done, but they're not necessarily confined to an office 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people they're kind of getting sick of the remote thing. Like, it was cool at first, but I want to see people. I want to interact with people. I don't want to drive to work 40 minutes with the $7 gas.
Dang, gas is $7 out there.
Oh, not out here. It's like $4 now. Like
Oh.
threes, high threes and $4.
Gosh,
I don't know
what is
it like out there in the sixes.
$5.90, like $6.
Okay.
Yeah, it hasn't. I think the highest I've seen it was like $6.30 or $6.40 over here.
Yeah, I think it peaked a little bit, so it's kind of going down a bit.
I'm hopeful. I don't want it to go up any higher.
Man, has that kind of kept you at home more, like since gas is so expensive?
It hasn't kept me at home because I still gotta like drive to like drop off my sister and stuff, but it has kept me. It has gotten me to the point where I'm like, let me burn as much gas as I can, like until like the little light comes on that says I need to go get gas. Because like $40 doesn't give me a full tank of gas like it used to.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, don't burn it all the way down like that, man. I can mess the engine up. You know what I mean? Plus, how I look at it is you're gonna have to get the gas anyway. It's not like you burning it down that low is gonna
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, don't mess your engine up doing that, man. Last thing you know.
I've only done it once.
Okay.
It wasn't on purpose. It was like, oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've done that before, man. But yeah, we gotta get away from that.
I think so.
It's crazy, man.
You said you interviewed recently?
Yeah, man. I've been starting to take interviews more. I'm trying to get into I'm technically like a lead developer at my current job, like a lead front end developer, but I want to get into a job where I'm actually doing that. Because like here it's kind of like they just stick me on a project. Here, you handle this by yourself. You know what I mean? Now I'm kind of getting a few front end guys, filtering in. But for these past few projects, it's just been me. So like the company I've been in it, the last one I interviewed for is more like, okay, you would actually have a team. You would actually have to mentor people, just like that from the get-go. It's not like here you just code the app by yourself. So yeah, it's interesting, man. Like the interview process is a lot different than the typical senior or mid-level dev or even junior dev, because in those they ask you a lot of technical questions. They kind of want to see, can you get in here and get to work on the app? Like they might ask you like, what is React lifecycle methods? What is this? What is that? What is data structures and algorithms? Whereas they've been giving me more like scenarios, like okay, say you have a new team member. He might not have the greatest confidence. How do you get him up to speed, and how do you get him ready to be productive? And, I have to kind of outline what I would do. Then they contrast it with a different scenario. Okay, you have a senior developer. How would your approach be different? And like the difference in approach is like with seniors, you have to be more careful. Like you can't baby them and watch over them because they kind of feel like you're disrespecting them. So it's more like you kind of leave an open door with them. Like, hey, if you need something, feel free to ask. I'll give you a general overview of the app, but let them loose on it. Where with a junior, you got to kind of hold their hands and be like, hey, don't worry, you got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, kind of like more of a dealing with the actual people type of questions as opposed to just straight technical stuff.
Yeah,
which I
you're
kind of
essentially
like.
a people person.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting, man. I'm starting to kind of prefer that, man. Like, um, I think I pretty much exhausted the technical, pathway. Like, what else can I really do? Like,
Right.
maybe be a super full stack developer, but I'm just literally doing it.
A super full stack developer.
Yeah, like I'm a master of SQL, Angular, React. Like, come on,
Right.
like just literally doing the same thing I'm already doing, but in expanded capacity. I kind of want to do something different. Like, okay, I got a team, and now I gotta encourage guys and enhance their productivity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what about you, man? Have you been doing any interviewing or just kind of
Just kind of chilling for now.
Yeah, you got to.
I think like it's more like an on and off type of deal.
Yeah.
What was it? I had somebody reach out to me, and it was like, "Oh, you don't have enough React experience." I'm like, all right, that's cool. Like, whatever. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'm not gonna fake the funk. Like, but it is what it is, But I just see that as like, okay, let me just brush up on my React skills or like whatever. And I'm thankful that I'm able to work like with React, and not like on just like pet projects, right? Like I'm grateful that I have the side gig, just because it gives me that exposure, right? To I guess more industry level practices, like, because it's not like I could just do anything and just push it out there. And I'm not saying that like that's what I do on my day to day. It's definitely not what it is. But it's almost like you have 3 or 4 other people like looking at your code and with a fine tooth comb. It's like, why do this or why this or why that? It's like, wow, okay, I didn't think of it that way. So
So let me ask you this, man. Do you think, like, okay, somebody say they're in a job, jobs force them to use like not obsolete, but like legacy technology, say like Angular JS1. They want to kind of get away from that. I want to use a modern framework. You recommend them to kind of get a side gig, even if it's unpaid. That
start soon. Get exposures to it sooner than later, because the longer you wait, like there's no reason to wait. One. And unless you just don't have the time to dedicate, right? But I find that like, they only ask of me like 20 hours a week. Okay, I at first I did the math. Like, all right, 20 hours a week. What is that, like 3 hours a day? Right. So like 3 hours a day at the end of the day, okay, you clock out at 5:36 or whatever. 5:36 or whatever, and then you work for 3 more hours. You get off at 9. Like it's pretty manageable. It's pretty manageable. It's just about finding being reasonable, right? Being reasonable with your time, because before, when I was like the first couple of weeks, I would definitely put off tasks until like the day of stand up, like the day before stand up, and that was a big no. Like, because people can see your commit history and stuff. So I would say like, you just kind of have to, if you think you can manage your time, I say go for it and do it. Like, don't wait. There's no reason to wait.
So like with a side job, man, what's your game plan with it? Like, how do you plan on like parlaying that into a full-time React job, or
I don't know.
Like, or is it just kind of something you just jumped into?
Right now, I'm just kind of enjoying it for what it is. Like,
Yeah.
whenever something new comes up, like this week, I learned testing using Cypress. Like,
Okay.
like, and I really see the benefit of it. Like, because
Yeah.
before, what's really cool is like they'll give me a task, but if I don't know the technology, it's like we'll have one-on-ones and walk
Mhm.
through, like, okay, here's this new technology, here's Cypress, here's how you use it, here's how a test runs, here's how
Yeah.
the CI/CD flow works. And it's not like, it's almost like I'm getting my feet wet without being under that pressure of, okay, I've passed this data structures and algorithms interview.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
now here's the imposter syndrome. Now I have to perform. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So it's a little
but as
more
far as
laid
like,
back.
yeah, it's more laid back, which is pretty cool. But
Mhm.
as far as like parlaying it into like a full-time job, I have no idea.
All right.
I have
So
no
like
idea.
for people that don't know, what is Cypress exactly? Is that end-to-end testing, unit testing? What is that?
Yeah. So Cypress is an integration testing library, right? And you can use
Okay.
it with React. And so when we use it with React, it is a when you push up, or when you create a branch using Git, right? When you branch off of main, you create your changes or whatever, and
Yep.
you create a PR, which is called a pull request, right? And that pull request is basically just a then this is, I know you probably know this already, but this is just for anybody who's listening or
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
A pull request is basically like, uh, it's your changes that you want to submit to be merged into the main branch, right? And so that could
Yeah.
include like text changes or image changes, whatever changes you made to the site. Once you've made those changes and you're merging into master, the integration tests are going to run within that build, right? So the new version of the website is building, the integration tests are running. What the integration tests do is it simulates the website, right, in memory, right, and it basically follows a bunch of instructions. So you could say like,
Mhm.
go to this URL, right? Once that URL
Yeah.
loads, the page URL should be X, and
Yeah. Yeah.
click on find this button named help and click on it. And then
Yeah.
if it creates a modal, the modal should say this, like, and at any point in that integration test, if it fails, the entire build fails, right? And
Yep.
so it prevents, what it does is it prevents any changes to the main site that
Yeah.
could potentially break the site from happening, right? So like
Yeah.
you could have like a basic HTML website, write some code, uh, miss a semicolon or miss a quote or something, hit save, and then run it, and it'll break the site. And then it's up to you to find that bug, right? But
Yeah.
Cypress testing, it makes your, or integration testing, I should say, not just Cypress testing. Integration testing or end-to-end testing is basically a set of tests that tests a component or feature from the end to end, from creating to updating to deleting that object or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, like a lot of companies, they want unit testing, but the difference between like say like end to end and integration and unit test is more like they call that I guess more like a white box testing, whereas end to end is more black box testing. Like the difference is, okay, white, the unit test, they test directly against the code, right? You're
right.
testing functions in isolation,
Mm-hmm.
you're mocking out dependencies so that
Mm-hmm.
you control everything. But
Yeah.
with end-to-end testing, you're not testing against the code, you're testing against the website, or the actual product. Like, you run the script, it goes to the URL, it looks at the page, looks at this button, clicks the button, verifies the result on the page.
Yeah.
So is that more like what you're doing with Cypress?
Pretty
Like you're
much.
not, yeah,
I would say just to counter the point of like of end-to-end testing being like a black box, they do have like a visual aid. They have a well, at least Cypress does. Cypress has a dashboard where like I can find the test that I want to run. I can click it, and it'll show a version of. It'll show like an iframe of the localhost, and it'll tell me like each step as it goes through my tests,
No,
and it'll like click the elements and simulate stuff. So
no. So
I
what
wouldn't.
I'm saying by black box testing is you're not testing against the code directly. You know what I mean? You're not testing the
Yeah.
function, so
Mhm.
you can't see directly into the code. You're testing the
Yeah.
output of yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes
Yeah.
sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I think the end-to-end test is like very important for the front end. Like, unit tests are kind of hyped up, but you need end-to-end tests on the front end
Mhm.
because you have to test what's actually the output of the browser.
Yeah. Like the real deal, the real
Yep.
vibe. Yeah.
So okay, here's a quick question, man. Like
Mm.
compared to before you took on this project and after, do you feel like you're a much more confident developer? Like I'm using technologies I wasn't before, like Git, doing this
Uh,
test.
I would say much more. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit more confident in my
Yeah,
abilities, just because like before, I guess I was afraid of breaking things, and I kind of still am, but
yeah, yeah,
I'm kind of seeing that that there's only so much like in order for you to
yeah,
like break something, you have to go from it has to be broken on your machine first before you even submit it, right?
yeah,
And so if you go through the proper like checks and balances or like the proper steps, you shouldn't like
yeah,
a bug that maybe, well, let me not say shouldn't, a bug that might appear on live or like the main branch could probably should have just snuck under the radar. Like
yeah,
you'll see like all the changes that you're gonna make, you'll see before you even like submit it to something.
yeah,
So yeah, like I'm not afraid, man. Like I
yeah,
I think the only reason I would be afraid is if I come up against something that I just don't know. Like I've
yeah.
never used this before, and I'm freaking out. But
And
yeah,
that's the good thing about the CI/CD pipeline, man, and version control. Like, if you screw something up, you can just go back to the previous version of the code. Like, you didn't completely blow something up and it's
mhm.
unrecoverable.
Yep,
You have a good CI/CD pipeline, version control, and test to catch. Like, if you do break something, the test should catch it.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
new bug comes up, you write a test for. Okay, we fix it, and then we test for this bug next time.
Hmm. Yep, exactly. That's the thing, man. Like when you really get into like tried and true
Mm,
uh way methods, like methodologies, like it all starts to make sense. Like okay, like
yeah,
why do you do this? Because that's just the way it is. Like it just works best this way, and like you
right,
just
right.
don't. I'm not saying you don't go against it, but it's harder to find a better way to do something.
Hmm.
It's almost like if it makes sense, like why not do it?
Yeah, there's a reason that most companies have a similar process because this stuff works.
Hmm.
Code reviews kind of keeps everybody on the same level. Like, okay, where everybody's writing this good, maintainable code.
Hmm.
You have linting. People aren't checking in like really sloppy code.
Hmm.
Version control. People can't just completely break the code base. All of this kind of comes together and prevents somebody from blowing up the whole application.
Did you hear about Oh man, I don't know if you ever heard about people like coming in and like dropping tables or like
Oh
uh,
yeah,
just doing like the most ridiculous stuff like on their first weeks of work.
yeah. Yeah, I think that it's kind of like the sign of bad infrastructure. Like develop especially junior developers, they shouldn't have the privileges to just kind of come in and be able to drop tables and all that. And they should have a backup of the database, like. So it's crazy, man. But I think it all comes down to process. Like, you got to protect yourself as a company.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're gonna be teaching junior engineers, how do you protect yourself? How would you do that? Like,
okay, so yeah, like like you say, like the pipeline that they have, the system they have in place, kind of gives you confidence. Like, like you can only do so much damage to the system. Like, before before you can check the code in, somebody has to look at it.
right.
Okay, he wrote tests against this too. Like, and really, they can check your branch in isolation and see, okay, yeah, cool, this works, before saying, okay, we're gonna bring this into the code base. Like, you can't, just from the code review process, you can't just slip in something that nobody knows about unless they just decide not to look at it.
they just bat an eye and be like, all right, well, I don't care about that. Yeah.
Exactly. So okay, like, so if you were about to onboard a junior developer, like, what would you tell him? Like,
be patient.
just to kind of I want to get you in the mindset of, like, thinking from a lead developer, because I know that's going to be a eventual path, man. So, like, say, like, you're onboarding a junior, he's nervous about committing code. He has like the same fears you have. Like, how would you kind of I can blow the app up.
I would blow the app up.
Okay.
But I would, then this is just me thinking, like, really, like, 100% far out there, right? I think really what I think what would be best is, and if I could tell this person's nervous, like, just break the site, not like the main site, but just like break the merge or whatever, right? And show them that, hey, it's okay if this doesn't work, or like, hey, how should we troubleshoot this, right? Get them thinking outside of the box, right? And get them thinking outside of the one track mind of, all right, he's driving, I just got to sit back in the passenger seat and just ride along. We have one, break the site, and then two, like, just explain my thought process of why I'm doing something. Like, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking that way? And to get into the habit of sharing, because like, one thing that I had to learn was, like, writing out my thought process when it comes to changes to my code and making it make sense. And this is about to break. Like, trying to make it make sense. And that was like a big, that was big for me. I was like, okay, well, I know what I want to say, but how do I turn that into words? How do I turn those thoughts into words? So, yeah, man, it was interesting. It was interesting trying to make that happen.
The thing is, as you get higher up in the coding world, man, like, you have to start thinking like that. Like, you can't just think about how am I going to solve my problems. You're going to have to start thinking about, I have a team around me. I have a bunch of other coders. How can I maximize their talents? How can I instill confidence? It's like leadership too, So, like you said, you would give them the tools to think through their problems. You would tell them, okay, you have an isolated branch. You can break the site and then revert all the changes. You're not going to check that in the code base. So feel free to break it and learn.
It's like, just go ahead, just break it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that this guy told me. He's like, just work fast, break some stuff, and just have at it. Like, you can't hurt it. And and that kind of gave me the confidence of like, okay, I can't hurt it, right?
Yeah.
The and that gave me the confidence to just like get in there and just rip stuff up.
So yeah, I know a lot of junior developers have like that imposter syndrome. Oh, I can't do this, or they have like a terrible fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How would you massage those fears? Like, hey, calm down. It's gonna be okay. You're not gonna fail.
Let me think.
So like while you're thinking, I'll just tell you what I would say.
Go ahead.
Okay, say you were a new developer, you come into the company, you have a bunch of fears. So first I would tell you, like, you passed the interview process, didn't you? So you're competent, you know what you're doing. Somebody, the company saw enough in you that they believe you could do the work. So one, you have to believe in your capabilities. Two, you feeling fear, that's natural. Everybody feels, fear of the unknown. But let me tell you, like, once you start solving these problems, the fear is going to diminish because you're seeing that you are capable, and the more you solve, the greater your confidence, and you eventually going to get to a point where you start seeing you're solving the same problems over and over. So your speed is going to pick up as well. So don't worry. Just make sure your mind is open to learning. Give a best effort at solving a problem. And if you get stuck, yeah, you can reach out to me or a senior developer. But
Yeah.
make an honest effort at solving these problems, and you'll be fine.
And then I would say to that, like, come up for air. When I say come up for air, it's so easy to just try and just like I have a problem. You get so deep into trying to solve that one issue or one problem, and that one problem uncovers another problem, and then so on and so forth. Like, jump up and like, don't forget to like ping people like, hey, I'm having trouble with this, or like, hey, this is happening.
Yeah.
That's happening, because without it, no one knows what you're doing. Like, unless they're looking at your commit history, right? And and even then, no one should have to read through your commit history or look at your branch to see what's being done, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would say, communication is a valuable skill. Like, being able to talk to people is like a super valuable skill, and like, I'm terrible at it. I'm still working through those little issues here and there, but I'm making the effort to at least like talk to like getting used to just talking. Like, this podcast really helps. I've started like recording like videos of me just like going on like a like talking about a topic or whatever, and even going so far as to like pay attention to like certain habits that I have, like using the word like a lot, and trying to iron out those habits, because it'll like, I feel like by ironing out those habits, it just makes your point a lot stronger when you can be fluent.
I really came across an interesting scenario on LinkedIn. It was this, he was working at this company, and the lead developer said to him, hey, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And then, he started asking these questions. Like, then the lead developer kind of came back and said, hey, man, you're asking too many questions. And, he kind of felt like, okay, I can't really come to my lead developer because maybe he feels like I'm asking too many questions. So, it's interesting that, the higher up you get, the more how you interact with people personality wise, that has an effect on other developers that can literally make them want to quit. So if you're in a situation where you're kind of leading a team, or you're in charge of a couple of developers, and they need like a good chunk of your time, how do you balance your workload while also making them feel like you're there for them?
Ooh, how do I balance a workload?
Yeah.
I would say, hmm, uh, sorry, what was the question?
Okay, like okay, say you have like a team, you're managing a team, right?
Right.
You're the lead developer,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you have these guys are kind of new to the project, and they need a little bit of help. So maybe they might each need 30 minutes a day from you. How do you manage your own workload while being there for your team?
Dang, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah,
That's
you know, these are the kind of questions I was being asked, you know, and you know what I would do in this situation is, you know, while you're thinking about it, I just let you know like how I would handle it.
uh,
You know, okay, so what we could do is, you know, it's hard to give five different people 30 minutes of your time, you know, separate 30-minute chunks. So we would kind of all get in a meeting room and maybe I'll dedicate an hour to answering
mhm.
everybody's questions. And you know, the benefit of that is if one guy asks a question, that may be the same question on another guy's mind, and that would have kind of answered his question. It would have saved him time. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you got to kind of realize initially that developing your team, it pays off because the more autonomous you get your team, the less work you eventually have to do because you can delegate to them. Like, hey, I want you to handle this, this, and this for me. And you know,
Yeah,
if they know what they're doing, they they'll just do it. Like they don't have to keep asking you questions.
I think that's there's got to be an onboarding process too.
Yeah,
You onboard
exactly.
properly, and and it'll save you a lot of time. Like, yeah, of course, like you're gonna have to, like, not everybody's gonna know everything. I get that, right? Like,
Yeah,
I'm not saying like all developers should know everything, but there's got to be like documentation or something in place
yeah,
that's easily available. And like if somebody's getting onboarded, okay, here's a book, or
yeah,
here's a link to our documentation, to
yeah,
our life cycles or whatever, our development cycles. Go for it. To start,
yeah.
your task is to just go through this and then answer these questions at the end, right? Maybe
Right.
I'm not. That's not how they did it with me, but it was more like here's
Yeah,
here's documentation, here's the task. Let's go over Shopify. Let's go over variants, how to make a product, how to edit a product. You go through the life cycle
yeah.
of like basic stuff. You're like, well, how does this going to help me? You know, like how's this wax on, wax off going to help me? And then you
So,
look up,
like,
and then boom.
are you actually sitting down with this developer and walking them through it, like, say, like through a screen share, or are you just kind of like, I'll go read the documentation. Here's where it's at. Have at it.
Uh, well, you know, with working remote, you can't like I can't sit down with somebody physically. Like I
Yeah.
could like pair program, I could pair program with them over it. And I think that's probably the closest you're gonna
Mhm.
get. But uh, that comes back to like how do you communicate with that person, right?
Yeah.
How are you gonna be able to convey your ideas of like, okay, scroll down here, go to line 245, click, you see where it says find by role, this means blah 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 blah. And then like you could even uh like show them, okay, hey, side dot find by role, what is that? All right, let's go to the Cypress documentation. Okay, find by role,
Yeah.
okay, it does this, this, and this. um and then that at least like makes the connection, like, okay, if I don't know what something is, let me go to the documentation.
Mhm.
like 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 little things that should get picked up,
Yeah.
right? I remember a time when it was like when I didn't understand the idea of like variants of a product, and it was like, well, how would I how would you get, you know, this variant versus that variant? And at the time, I couldn't piece it together. I couldn't like I was
Mhm.
working on a new feature, and I understood variants, but I didn't understand like, oh, okay, well, Shopify has, you know, find the first available variant, right? They have that flag, and I
Yeah.
like it was only until I went into the documentation slash like ask my lead like, hey, like I'm trying to get, you know, like this thing. It's like, oh, just use the first available variant. And like now in the back of my mind, I could just get it. But it wasn't until I hit that wall. And I think another good note or another good thing to be doing as a developer is taking notes. Like writing notes and having documentation, especially like code snippets when you solve a problem, that really helps.
Like so
when
you
go ahead.
You put like these code snippets in like a wiki, like you solve a problem, let me dump it in a wiki. Somebody can look at, if this problem recurs, just refer to that.
Like okay. I'll have like a Google folder, or I'll have like a document on my computer, and I just like I'll have like a header title, and I'll have like some back. I'll just take the code dump and I'll just dump it into the document. Yeah. All right, this is how to scroll to the top of a page when you click on a button. And I have like, okay, here's the button, here's the class that I added, here's the snippet for the code, and then boom, it's done. Here's how to get the international price for a product using this software. And then, so I save all that stuff because I know in the future it's going to come back. Like, okay, hey, we need to fix this. Like, all right, I have a snippet for that. Instead of digging through like the code base and trying to find, okay, where did I put that? Like, what part of the site did I fix that on?
So like, I know you've kind of had developers that have come on and newer guys, and they ask you questions like, how do you answer their question? You refer them to the snippets, or?
Well, we've gotten to a point where pair programming is really just like a ideal. We're like, okay, hey, do you have a couple minutes to go over this task? I'm having trouble with something, and like we'll just go over it. Like, okay, hey, what are you having trouble with? Okay, hey, this is when I click on this, it's not grabbing this variant, or this price isn't updating. What's wrong? And we'll just go through the flow. Okay, it should be doing this. Like, let's just follow the steps. All right. Did you do this? Or like, hey, let's check out the code, or let's see the front end first, or like little things like that where I try not to point people to like you just read the documentation, because not every scenario is might not be solved by the documentation, right? Like what if the site is just slow for whatever reason, right? It might not be on us. It might be on AWS. It might be on the CDN or whatever, right? And or it might be on a plugin that was installed, right? That just breaks randomly. So I would say, like, maybe like just have I'm going a little left field, but like if I'm a lead, or if anybody's a lead, they should have the patience to listen to that person's problem and try to formulate like a proper response, and not just like default response of whatever, like, oh, just read the documentation, or like, you should know this. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's the key. You have to start thinking in terms of managing your personality and managing their personality. Like, when you're solving these complex problems, you start getting stressed out, and then somebody pops up asking you questions. Okay, can I get some minutes of your time? And another guy asks you, can I get minutes of your time? You find a way to be like, okay, I'll answer your question. Just give me like 5 minutes. You might have to take those 5 minutes to decompress.
Yeah.
But I think you always gotta have that calm and coolness, because if you panic, they're gonna panic, because you're the guy that's supposed to know what to do. So
yeah, exactly.
I think the higher you get, you have to learn really how to research and figure things out on your own, and then you start teaching them how to research as well. You know what I mean? So they're not the key behind a great leadership is getting the people under you in a state of autonomy to where they can do their own thing. Like, you don't have to handhold them. They just kind of like operate within the paradigm that you set. Like, this is what we're doing. I'm gonna let you go, and I trust that you can do it. like getting them to that point. That's the key behind great leadership, because you can't watch over what everybody's doing all the time. So, like in
Yeah.
your mind, say you're managing a team, like what are some of the things you would do that would make them successful in your company?
Yeah, they gotta have a good onboarding process. I know I
Yeah.
keep going back to this, but it's like with a solid onboarding process, you can't go wrong. Like I feel like
Okay. What's a good onboarding process to you versus a bad one?
uh, a good one would be like spin up a repo. Like, okay, here's our repos, right? Pull down the repo, spin it up, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like set up. Like here's the steps to set up your dev environment on your local machine. Follow all these steps, and then maybe even just like go to this component, right? Or go to this page, go to this URL. It's almost like a treasure hunt, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, follow all these steps, and then when you get to this point, ping me with the answer to this question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's almost like it forces that person to okay, I have to go through
Right.
these steps first, and then in order to answer this last question. Once you
Yeah.
get through all the steps, boom, you're golden, right? So I would say, like, get them familiar with like get them familiar with like or whatever technologies that you're using early on. Get their hands dirty, and then have them run into errors and problems early on. If I'm not saying you got to make it hard, right? But just you want to put them. You want to test them early on. Like, all right.
Yeah.
If you say Git, okay, cool. Pull down this repo and then go through this. I'll come back to you in a couple minutes or whatever.
Right.
A bad one I think would be like here's the ticket, right? I give you a title for that ticket, and then no description of what that ticket, what the success criteria is for that ticket. We didn't discuss it at all. And stand-ups are every 2 weeks on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Have your task done by then. And then no discussion. I think that would be terrible.
Hit the ground running. I'm not going to explain anything. You figure it out.
Yep.
So I think I agree with what you say. Like for me, there's like two key components. One is you getting them up to the standard of the company, like this is what they need to be successful, and two, you answering any questions that they may have, like any concerns. So initially, like you say, the onboarding process would handle getting them up to the standard of the company. Like this is what we do here. This is what you need to do to be able to engage in a successful, cycle of software development.
Yeah. And
then, you would also have meetings for any impromptu questions like that you may have missed during the onboarding. Like, hey, do y'all need everything? Do y'all feel like, you're able to check out the code and do everything you need to do to create a successful PR? So it's kind of like that two-step process. But yeah, you really have to. All right, go ahead.
I was gonna say like people want you to succeed. Like like your team lead or whoever, they should want you to get better, because that means that they're teaching you like they're teaching you how to, like, it's working. Whatever they're teaching you is working, and how they're teaching you is working as well. And if you're still struggling after a week or two or whatever, it's not a good sign.
I think the key. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like team lead, the key word there is lead. It's not team technician. Like, you're not only looking out for yourself, like, oh, let me do what I can to be the best coder I can. It's like you're cultivating other coders around you. And you have to keep that in mind. You can't let your work overwhelm your development process of the other coders on the team. And, I think like a bad team lead, he fears that if he invests too much into the other coders, they're going to be competition for him. Like, what do you think about that?
I don't think competition is a bad thing, but I don't think you should look at it as competition.
Exactly.
If if I'm training somebody and they get so good that we
Yep.
become we get to the same level and they challenge me or they teach me something,
Yeah.
I've won. I've successfully taught you. So
Right.
I feel like that's a win. That's got to be a
Yeah.
win. Why wouldn't it be?
Right. I guess some people feel like, okay, there's just one high level job. If I teach this guy too good, he might get the job instead of me. Yeah, it's really
It,
selfish, man.
that's crazy. That's nah. I don't believe it. I
But
mean,
it seems
maybe.
like some people have those kind of experiences in the industry. Like they ask a senior or team lead for something, and it's kind of like they get brushed off. Like, oh well, here's some documentation. You go look, you go figure it out. Uh, I've talked to a lot of like juniors, and they kind of feel like they're on their own in the industry.
Dang, that's that's crazy. That's I don't think that helps anybody. It doesn't help the lead who should be there to assist, and it doesn't help the junior who's just coming on board
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to give them a bad experience.
Yep. Yeah. Just one last question before we wrap
Mm-hmm.
this up. Okay, say you're a junior, and you have like a kind of like a team of leads and seniors. You need help. You're confused, but they're kind of brushing you off, like, oh, no, whatever. Like, what do you do as a junior to make sure that you don't sink?
Oh man, and nobody's willing to help me.
Yeah, they're kind of like brushing you off. It's like, go figure it out on your own.
I try to figure it out on my own.
Yep.
I try to
That's
figure it
all
out.
you
I
can
mean,
do.
it's all I can do, right? Like you just you just try. You try some more.
Yeah,
And you got to burn the candle at both ends, even if it takes that.
yeah,
You got to be willing to put in that time.
exactly.
Um, and I feel like that's the type of skills that you should be fostering, like as you're learning to
Mm,
initially like code
yeah,
or do anything new, because that shows that you're resourceful even when nobody wants to be there to assist, right? So
yeah,
um, you just gotta be self-reliant. You gotta be resourceful.
yeah,
You got to be able to like crack open a book, right? Read some documentation, um, ping somebody on Reddit or Discord or
mm,
something, right? There's way more avenues to exhaust, right?
right.
And once you get into that mindset of like, all right, I'm gonna learn this by any means necessary,
Yep.
uh, it just the walls come crumbling down.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
like Elden Rings or something, like a hard game where you keep failing over and over and over.
Yeah.
You just keep trying, you pick up a little thing like, okay, I need to adjust my strategy like this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I need to do a little, coding is the same thing. Like, okay,
Yep.
I'm failing here. Let me look up this solution. Let me try
Yep.
this. Let me try that.
Yep.
Failure is not the end of the road. Like, you gotta look at the failure, pull something from it, adapt and adjust
Mm-hmm.
till you get
Yep.
it. You
Yeah.
stick with it,
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I've been like here and then here. I'm still trying to get the Cypress test to run, and like just seeing that
Finally got it
like
done.
a 2 out of 10, which is great to me.
Yeah,
And I'm just hoping that like 3 out of 10 runs, because once I get that third one, then boom, I can move on. Yes, 3 out of 3 passing.
yeah,
Feels good, man. It feels really good.
yeah, yeah, man. I think it's a good note to end this on. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
Peace.